Hello and welcome to True Crime Diary, a light-hearted podcast on a serious subject. Every 2 weeks we look back through true crime stories to discuss an event that took place on this week in history. I'm your host Mark Decana, and with me as always are my friends Jed Lester.
Hello.
And Rue Turner.
Hello. Right, so now let's do a list of the reasons, dear subscribers.
Dear listener, singular.
What are the reasons why we haven't been recording? I'll give you... Mark did something wrong with one of the records.
Let's start there.
I'll start with someone else's.
By blaming me. No, we had technical difficulties in the attempt to record an episode,
which you won't hear because the dates all skew with now.
Yeah, so it wasn't. If it was good enough to ever put out, I would have put it out at the time. Yeah. So yeah, it didn't work.
What else? You've been away.
Yeah, I spend a third of my life in the Netherlands.
Right.
So
okay. So that's not
coinciding the other 2/3 of my life with both of your lives.
Yeah, I mean
that's right. I only have a third.
That's not necessarily an excuse, but we haven't, because we could. Could we do it if you were over there? Of course we could.
We could Zoom it.
Probably.
Yeah. But anyway, whatever.
But we didn't.
Whatever.
But now we're in this age of humans being in contact with each other again. Yeah, it's rather nice to do it that way.
Yeah, no, I know. I've been away a bit. Was I?
And Mark, you had a biological barrier to doing it again.
Oh yeah, you were ill.
Or I was ill. It's another way of putting it. Yes,
that was
a biological barrier.
And also, you were away for 3 weeks.
I was away,
kind of.
Yeah, but we're back,
and we're doing pirates again.
Hurrah! When you say again,
are we?
We've never done pirates, and technically, this isn't piracy.
Pretty sure it is.
No, because
technically,
if you take over the boat which you're meant to be working on, it's mutiny.
It's mutiny.
If you take over somebody else's boat,
piracy on a bounty. Yeah.
So we've never done a pirate.
Well, we'll see the story.
No, it's not a pirate story.
Right, go on then. Do your intro.
Okay. So the date we're looking at today is the 28th of April, 1789. The crew, or some of the crew, of the HMAV Bounty mutinied against its commander,
Aston Villa.
Her Majesty's armed vessel.
Okay. In law, naval law, it's because some people went against naval law and plotted a coup. So the crime we're looking at is that of mutiny, which we haven't done before, and we are using the most famous act of mutiny there is. I mean, I know it's in the title, but
I mean, if you ever say mutiny, the next 3 words are on the bounty.
I suppose so. Okay, yep.
So the act of mutiny is a hangable offence.
Really?
So, yeah, at the time.
I mean, I'd say chuck over boardable.
Yeah.
Chuck over boardable?
Yeah.
Or walking plankable.
Yeah. Or lazinable. Why would you rig up?
Keelhaul.
Why would you rig up all that?
Keelhaulable.
Just chuck them in.
Chuck them in the
Cheers.
Lob them off.
Is that Russian? What is that?
Right, where are we talking about?
In the sea.
I've got no idea. Geographically, I'm thinking of Anthony Hopkins quite a lot.
You will, and you might.
Right, okay.
And we'll get to that in our pop cult.
Fine,
segment.
yeah.
So the HMAV Bounty, a vessel of the Royal Navy, but it wasn't a ship of the line, so not a ship of war.
Right.
That's why it's the HMAV, because it had cannon.
Right.
It's armed for protection against pirates.
Right.
Against pirates.
Pirate episode.
Yes. Jim lad.
And so on.
I knew it. How long did that take? Bloody 3 minutes. There's no piracy in this.
No pirates here. Pirates.
Say it on, Tenny Pirates.
As you may well know, the Bounty was sent to Tahiti to pick up breadfruit plants.
That's right.
And take them to...
What, nothing else?
Yeah.
Yep, nothing else. The whole point of it was to take breadfruit to the West Indies.
Take or retrieve?
To collect plants from Tahiti.
Plants,
Take them to the West Indies.
Yep.
To provide a source of fruit.
So a load of
For the future.
For the future, yeah.
How far is that from where to where?
Well, Tahiti's in the South Pacific, and the West Indies is the Caribbean.
Oh, Christ, right. Oh, okay.
Round to the other side of the world. For some reason,
I was thinking it was...
It's months.
Not very long. But. So what's the point of that? Just to provide a source of food for...
Yeah, because it's to provide, to get
a new
readily available
food
source. Bear in mind,
they've had it up to here with coconut.
Well, you see, they would have had a lot more food coming from the Americas.
Yes,
but bear in mind, there's a big old set to with the Americas because of the revolution.
Of course, yeah, that exact time.
So
they were busy doing
10 years before
other things.
Yeah, but it had a bit of a war-y thing. So,
gone a bit war-y.
It went a bit war-y. So they got this boat together. They said, right, we'll pop over to the South Pacific, get some plants, pop them halfway around the world, and there's your fruit supply for the colonies.
Yeah, breadfruit, I think it's related to jackfruit, which is more popular these days, pretending to be chicken and pulled pork and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what breadfruit is.
It's a little bit like jackfruit.
Again, breadfruit. I mean, why would you bring that specifically? Is it specifically that is a plant providing that fruit?
Yeah.
So why would you choose that?
It's reasonably nutritious,
loaf-sized fruit?
Yeah. It is.
It looks like a loaf of bread.
That's what I'm saying. A mass that grows as opposed to a garden pea.
They're big fruits. Yeah,
they're really big fruit. It's related to jackfruit.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a mulberry bush, but on a massive scale.
And I don't know why they're bothering. It's like
it's food. It's food.
Well, I know that, but it's like why
it grows in those regions. So
it grows quick. Or
it grows quick, it grows large, it grows tall.
And they've the same climate as Tahiti, presumably, ish.
Similar, yeah. It tastes a bit like a potato.
Chicken. Oh, right.
Sandwiches.
Texture like bread, but tastes like potato. Apparently.
Oh right. Oh, so it's not a fruit.
But it is a fruit.
Yeah. Oh, it is a fruit.
But it has the texture of bread and the taste of
potato bread. That's
potato bread.
What's that?
Is that a thing?
That's a thing. Yeah. Isn't that like a fowl? An Irish fowl.
Oh, I see. Right. Or gnocchi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's just like boiled potato bread.
Potatoes.
I don't know. Perhaps they did that.
I don't know what's going on now. You've all gone mad.
I wonder if there's a...
But yeah, you make bread out of potato as well.
Yeah.
Bread out of potatoes out of bread. It's all gone mad.
I wonder if there was a breadfruit magnet.
Magnet?
Who just made
magnate.
An absolute fortune on importing, because surely someone at in that era was like me and said, "What? Where? From where and what?"
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure
we're up to our elbows in mangoes or something.
Well, the plan was to take, and it's over 600 plants they were going to take.
So not many.
So it wasn't. I mean, that's the whole ship. Pretty much, the captain's cabin on the ship was expanded to a third of the size of the boat overall, and given over completely to plants. So the captain of the ship didn't have a cabin.
But couldn't you've just brought seeds and brought a billion?
Well, I think they have a weird life cycle.
Okay,
so you can't.
So they don't have seeds.
Well, I think
a stone.
So you have to pick them at the right time of year,
and then sail quickly.
And if you don't get them at the right time of year, then they just die.
Well, again, it's like, why are you transporting it 3,000 miles then? It's like...
And again, so that the place that you're taking them to has a food supply.
Yeah.
When you can't get food from America, you have to have your own.
Oh, so right. So the food supply was cut off.
Yeah.
Because they were, turning their backs because they were busy with other stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
It's a bit safer to take livestock, but...
Yeah, or...
But then you have to feed them and deal with the excrement on the boat. We're going to feed them. They can't graze the sea.
They love breadfruit.
They love a breadfruit. We'll get the breadfruit and then we'll get the cows and then they can eat the fruit.
So do you reckon they literally planted them in this boat?
Well, they were in pots. They were potted.
Yeah.
And then they took... one of the crew was a well-known gardener from Kew Gardens. And they would have taken loads of earthenware pots.
Right, okay.
Stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they would have had to, presumably, would have only have to wait until it rained to water them, as opposed to give them
Well, they were
seawater.
tropical plants, so they would be used to dry environment. Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. As opposed to chuck a load of seawater on them.
Yeah, the salt's
It's about as good to the plant as it is to you.
You would have salted the earth and nothing would live.
Salted the sea. 200, what is it? 200 and whatever years later, I'm eating a Jaffa cake.
Jaffa cakes. Yeah.
So ultimately,
who wins?
well done.
Cake or biscuit?
Oh, that's been going on forever. But they proved it was a cake.
Yeah.
Because they proved because it goes hard when it goes stale, and biscuits go soft when they go stale.
Yeah, so this is definitely a cake.
And they made one the size of
That
a
isn't. You see, that isn't the definition of a
But
biscuit.
that's the definition that proved the legal argument.
That's Jaffa cake. Goes hard when you leave it somewhere, don't you?
Yeah.
It's like KP having to prove that peanuts are not nuts.
Well, they're peas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Why? Why?
Yeah, it's like strawberries. Strawberries aren't berries.
No.
Who's asking them to prove that?
Right, let's sort this out.
Yeah.
Jaffa cakes are cakes. Peanuts are peas and legumes. Yeah.
That said,
Strawberries are droop sacks.
Jaffa cakes are
Even though
cakes.
they're not a sack. and
Bananas are berries. Raspberries aren't berries. Blackberries aren't berries.
I thought bananas were spices.
What the hell are you talking about?
About 20 minutes ago, we were talking about the bounty.
I'm going to say that's in my top 5. There,
The crime on the bounty was taking the cardboard tray out.
Oh yeah.
Nobody wants bounty. Bounties
Yeah,
are
I'm
the
going to
worst
say.
confection.
I'm going to say perhaps not top 5, top 7.
Million. 7. All right.
Top 7. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to say Boost. I'm going to say Mint Aero. I'm going to say... Hold on. Maltesers. I say they count. Maltesers.
Count as what?
What?
One of your
It's a
top
cake
5
or a biscuit.
In my top 7.
Your top 7
Top seven
confections.
Okay.
Go on then.
There's going to be a fight of
what,
Turkish
your-
delight, isn't it? Somewhere.
Get that.
No Turkish delight.
That's not allowed.
I always forget whether I like that or not because I haven't eaten it.
Oh, that's it.
Bloody horrible.
You discover it every time you have it.
Rediscover.
It's horrible.
That's the joy. That's the delight in
Exactly.
Turkish delight. The rediscovery.
Fruit and nut.
Viscount.
Old school.
I mean,
Viscount.
that's,
Yeah,
I mean, that's
Viscount
arguably a biscuit.
Wasn't that a yo-yo?
Foil covered.
That's arguably a biscuit, though, isn't it? So that doesn't count.
It's a chocolate confection.
No, it's not
It's
in the
still
same.
confection.
Yeah, but it's not oblong and in some
There has to be.
plastic.
Maltesers aren't oblong.
Exactly. It's the
they're in
least,
plastic.
the least oblong that you can possibly
got to
get
be oblong.
is a sphere.
Yeah, but they're in a plastic case.
Hey.
Crunchy.
Yep,
There you go.
that works.
Go on, name some of yours.
Twix. Simple, classic.
Dark chocolate only.
Oh, fuck off, Dark chocolate could burn.
Chunky Kit Kat. There you go.
Yeah, it's just a wafer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yorkie.
That's
Yorkie?
just chocolate.
That's all right. Yeah.
It's just chocolate though, isn't it?
But not whipped. You don't like whipped chocolate like an Aero?
Whipped.
You don't like it whipped?
Well, that's what I said. Mint
You
Aero.
said Aero. And minted. Whipped and minted.
If you're going to say Viscount, which you're not allowed, I'm going to say a Tunnocks tea cake.
Oh, I was going to say Tunnocks.
Not a
That's
Tunnocks
definitely
caramel.
in. That's definitely in. Oh, no, tea cake.
You had a real crisis then for an instant. Oh, by Jove. He's right.
Yeah, so anyway.
Lieutenant William Bligh was commissioned as captain of the vessel. Not captain. He was captain of the vessel, but he was a lieutenant, I should say.
Okay.
His job
So
was
he
a
has the
captain.
role, but not the position.
Yeah, he captained the vessel, but his rank was lieutenant. And his good close friend Fletcher Christian, who was also a lieutenant, Mr. Christian.
I'm sorry.
Was commissioned as first
I
officer.
cannot hear that name without hearing it said in the background as
Who says that? Does Anthony Hopkins say that?
Yes.
Mr. Christian. Mr. Christian. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, we'll get on to impressions later.
Now, Bligh had been in the Navy since he was 7.
Wow.
7 years old.
How?
Because, I mean, he had officers who were like 12 back then.
Officers.
Yeah.
Can you imagine,
I can understand.
getting on board and saying, "Oh, this is the officers." You're like 30 or 40-year-old sailor.
Understand hired help and box shifter and whatever, cabin boy or
Deck mopper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not bloody officers.
But if you've got a tough dad who's in the Admiralty, and then
he just
sends your son, right, here's a commission in the Navy. You're now like a petty officer.
Oh yeah.
So you'd be like the lowest rank, but officer. You'd be in command of all the able seamen.
Yeah.
And you'd be like 12. And Bligh also, he was on James Cook's final voyage as well.
Really.
Yeah, he was a chief navigator.
One of the gardeners, I think there was 2 gardeners on board, but one of the gardeners had also sailed with Cook previously.
Yes, they had the Kew Garden botanist and his assistant were on it. Yeah,
right. Yeah.
So 45 people in all aboard when it sailed.
It's long and hard and full of seamen.
It's quite a small ship comparatively. Bearing in mind it's going to be at sea for months and months, going from one side of the world to the other. It was comparatively very small.
45 souls on board.
Souls, yeah.
So, and that's including the captain and everybody. So I guess that's good in a way. You got fewer mouths to feed and support, but that's also a lot of work for everybody to do.
Yeah. So when you consider that it's got to go from one side of the world to the other, it was only 90 feet long, which is
not very long.
And they're going to put 600 plants on board.
How many metres is that?
30 metres.
30
roughly,
metres,
broadly speaking.
So that's a kind of like a moderate yacht these days.
Yeah. So there's 45 souls aboard.
Surely it had to do London to Tahiti.
First, they had to sail from London.
Yeah, which is probably
to the other side of the world.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I know a few people who've got yachts that big, and well, 1 or 2. And
what, you know a few people who've got 1 or 2 yachts?
My brother lives
for
at
the
the
record.
coast, so
I don't know.
I don't know anyone who's ever seen a yacht.
And there is no way I would consider going on board one of those from London to Tahiti.
Ain't all about the size of the boat. It's the motion in the ocean.
So the getting there to Tahiti is not even, you haven't
East
even
of
started,
Australia.
basically, have you?
Yeah. First of all, you got to get around Cape Horn.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then you got to get back to go to the West Indies.
Yes.
Except that they couldn't get round there. Okay. They spent ages trying to, but the weather beat them back, so they actually went the other way, round Australia to the other side.
God, to
the South Pacific from the other direction,
miles east of New Zealand or Fiji kind of thing.
Yeah.
God, blimey.
So it's long old.
No wonder there was a
contretemps.
Wouldn't it have just been easier to have gone to Mexico and across land?
They could, take the boat out, roll it across on logs.
I think it would have. I mean, I'm aware that's probably...
Or just build a ship in Mexico.
Just build a ship, yeah.
That might be 25 miles or 30, 40 miles, that bit of Nicaragua kind of...
Yeah.
I think that would be... Or could just get another ship waiting. I perhaps you can't do that.
Walk across, get another boat.
Well, we've solved that thing.
Fools.
Tune in next week.
Fools they were.
They wouldn't have felt so mutinous if it had had a bit of an easy walk at the beginning.
They could have had a rest.
Yeah.
Get some Guatemalans to help out and stuff. Salvadorians.
And in the sort of 6 or 8 months it took them to get there and get back, they could have built a railway line across Nicaragua.
Yeah.
For getting back.
For all of the stuff, yeah.
I mean, you say just get a railway line.
Just get a railway, yeah. So here's an interesting thing. All these men aboard mostly were under 30.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bligh was 33.
Wow.
Fletcher Christian was 23. The youngest aboard, Midshipman Peter Hayward and John Hallett, and they were 15.
15, okay.
So you got
so twice the age Bligh when he started.
Yeah. Veterans. So basically, you've got that's another thing that should be remembered, that the people who were aboard were all relatively young. A lot younger than we would expect today. That would be normal at the time, but also they would be youthful and energetic.
And rebellious.
Rebellious, arguably.
I don't know, would they?
Opposing authority.
I don't know. I'm not sure they would, really. Because you're in a bit of a pickle in the sense that you can't go, oh, forget this, I'm off.
Yeah, I'm going back to London.
Exactly, yeah. You're kind of under, someone's command, and you are, it's not as if you're kind of in a prison, but you can't.
You kind of are.
Can't
in a floating prison.
Well, I know, but you can't get off, and you can't go. Yeah, get it. But
by all accounts,
a few of them did.
Bligh was an utter bastard.
Really?
Well, now that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Because by all accounts, and I mean by the accounts
You
of
just said that.
by the account of you, he was a bit of a bastard. But apparently, that's not true. Or at least he might have been quite strict, but no more than was the norm.
A commander. Captain.
In fact, anything, it could be argued that the mutiny was partly a result of him being quite genial and relaxed. Because they were, when we get to what happened in Tahiti, the standard by the Navy would be that everyone would be strictly disciplined, and they weren't. They were allowed to sort of chill out and lounge around a lot.
Once that's what
they wanted to do.
There was no restriction at all, really, on them.
Yeah, and so there's an argument that because he wasn't a strict disciplinarian, that's why they revolted, because they were allowed to chill out in Tahiti for 6 months, and then they were told to get back on board the ship and sail away, and they wanted to go back and chill out on Tahiti again. So that's partly.
But hadn't they been through quite a lot? Meaning he said,
well, yes, but if he'd maintained instead of just letting them on sort of chill out and take wives and what have you,
right?
If he'd made them do the mindless sort of routine things that would keep them disciplined,
occupied,
stuff. Yeah,
right.
Then there might have been less.
I say records. I mean, there's very little official stuff available about it. But what I saw was on board, he was quite brutal and.
Well, yeah. I mean, he took lessons from James Cook in terms of diet, and you have to have this, you can't have that sort of thing. But he made sure that they had music, they had dancing regularly. Yeah. So it's not like it was they were under the whip
moshing.
Yeah. I will say at this point though that this was only the first of 3 mutinies under his command.
On the same boat.
No.
Right, in his career.
Right. Although in fairness to Bligh, the other 2 weren't necessarily directly as a result of him. They were larger revolts, and it just happened to affect his shit. But it's probably not as strict as is made out, or he certainly wasn't callous. But there was, I think, one incident of a flogging, a lick of the cat. Aboard, 12 lashes for insolence.
The ship's company will remember that I am your captain, your judge, and your jury. You do your duty and we may get along. Whatever happens, you'll do your duty.
So the voyage then?
Yes.
They finally got permission to embark in November of 1787.
Where?
From Spithead.
Where's that? London?
No, it's on the coast. So
okay.
It's near Portsmouth.
Spithead. November?
Yeah, they didn't want to be leaving in the winter. He wanted to.
Awful.
Bligh wanted to leave a lot earlier.
Well, for a month or 2, it'd be pretty bad, wouldn't it?
Yeah. In fact, it took them nearly a month to get out of dock because of adverse weather. Because they couldn't, bear in mind, this is all sail.
Of course.
So they couldn't just powerboat their way out into the channel.
Yeah. By the way, listeners, we're all looking at a big map.
Well, it's more of a drawing.
On the wall. November, I would have gone, should we wait? Should we wait a few months to set off when it's a bit nicer? Mind you, if they'd wait a few months, and if their goal was to get round Cape Horn, by the time they got to Cape Horn, it would have been height of English summer and that depth of the Antarctican winter down there. So it may have been equally as horrendous.
I suppose, that's when you really kind of...
Mind you, that might have happened anyway.
What point in the year is the weather good enough at the Cape to get round?
Yes.
Set off enough time for
arguably that is immaterial, because he cares about the channel being a bit cold. Yeah. It's the Hope and Horn is what you need to be.
Hope and Horn.
Yeah. Or don't bother.
Because of these delays, Bligh asked permission from the Admiralty and said, if it's possible, if I can't get round Cape Horn, can I go the other way?
Right. Wow.
So they already knew on leaving that was a prospect.
Okay.
That might be a possibility.
All I ask is a tall ship and a star to sail her by.
Getting underway then, Bligh, with his good friend Fletcher Christian.
Yep.
Now, bear in mind that Christian wasn't first officer. He was a master's mate. He wasn't like a leading character on the boat necessarily. He was an officer.
Right.
John Fryer was sailing master or first officer. But because Bligh was such great mates with him, he pretty much gave him the same rank. He appointed him officially as an acting lieutenant.
So it's mates again. Mates rates again.
It's mates rates.
Mates relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. So he appointed him sort of implying that he was the second in command because of all this preferential treatment he was getting.
Right.
So when you hear about Fletcher Christian saying, "Oh, I'm being treated horribly, I am in hell," it's going, well, come on, you've been given preferential bunking on the ship. You've been given rank. You've been given all this. You're best mates with the ship's captain. I mean, what's the what's the rough time you're having exactly? Yeah.
Poor little guy. There he goes, without a friend in the world.
So, in April, they reach Cape Horn. So about 5 months to get from...
Okay. I thought you were going to say longer than that.
To get to Cape Horn.
Yep.
Then after a few weeks of trying to get round Cape Horn, trying to circumnavigate that.
Because it was rough.
Because of the sleet.
Wow.
And the hail and the squalls.
And the tiny boat that they're in.
And
the swell.
He finally said to the crew, well, we can't get round here, so we're going to go the other way. We're going to sail, basically, from this point, almost entirely around the world.
God, that's
the other direction.
I mean, all of it's bad, isn't it? So, hang on. They went to Cape Horn. So they had to do that first which is several thousand miles.
Several thousand miles, yeah.
And then they had to turn back.
They were beaten back by the weather.
Are there rocks ahead? If there are, we'll all be dead.
So they went round the Cape of Good Hope, Africa, around the other way.
Imagine the seas that were
and then
chucking
from
them
there
around.
they then had to get back to the West Indies. Bligh recorded in his diary, and whether this is true or not, but this is what he wrote, that when he announced to the crew that they were not going to keep trying and they were going to go to the Cape of Good Hope, it was to the great joy of every person on board.
Okay.
Happy day!
So there was no mutiny then?
No. They were delighted not to continue trying to buffet.
There wasn't a collective, oh.
What, really?
Oh.
One more time.
Bloody hell.
That must have been pretty rough then.
Sir?
Do you want to try this again, or should we go the long way round?
We've been trying it for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Thereabouts. Let's go the other way, which will take a lot longer.
And it's not going to be any less rough.
Mm-mm.
That southern Atlantic, Cape of Good Hope, into the Indian Ocean. So I was in. Here's a good fact. I was in South Africa about a month ago, and there's basically from cold water to warm water. It's like cold water's there and warm water's there. I mean,
the divide between the ocean.
You can't put one leg in one and went warm, cold, warm. Like you do with.
And then you wheat yourself.
Cold leg, hot.
Like you do with American states or something. Yeah. It's within a few, half a mile or something, but that's very much warm water, and that's cold water, and basically the warm water is obviously where all the sharks hang out. So, and the cold water is absolutely glacial cold.
Brought you 3 waters: cold, lukewarm, and warm.
But anyway, that trip, it's not as if it's great. We're now on a canal for a holiday for a week. Yeah. It's equally utter hell. Yeah. It just might have been. I mean, it might not have been a bit warmer, but it probably was a bit warmer, basically, weather-wise. I'm talking about.
Yeah, probably. From Cape to Cape was another month.
I bet it was. So hang on. They set up in November. It took 5 months. It's now the depth of winter down there. The depth,
which is going to be winter in South America.
So they've gone from winter.
So they've chased to the winter.
winter.
Yeah. Now I think South African winter is not like winter here. It's like quite pleasant.
Yeah. It goes from 40 degrees to 25 degrees.
But Cape Horn is bad.
Yeah.
And let's face it, Australian winter is completely fine. But anyway.
So by end of May,
yes,
they're now in the Cape of Good Hope. They spend 5 weeks there repairing the ship, basically.
Oh, wow.
Bear in mind, they haven't picked anything up yet.
No,
they've been at sea for 6 months and done
They've literally done nothing. Yeah,
they're still on the way out, on the way to work.
On the way to work,
Are they halfway? They're probably not even halfway, are they?
Not even, no, not even.
God. All for this stupid breadfruit.
Yeah.
I don't even like it.
I don't want this. Take it back.
Can we just take some apples? An apple crumble.
Hello, my name's Mark Decano and I host the Comedy in a Nutshell podcast, in which I talk with those in and around the comedy circuit, and most especially the comedians, about what comedy means to them.
Simon Amstel plus Lena Dunham plus Mr. Blobby. I thought that would be a good combo.
Every gig you get is somebody else not getting a gig.
Sometimes I've had people pull out a notepad and I've been like, oh no, thank you.
You are a jester and you're here to bring light relief to people's lives.
Somebody at the end was like, oh my God, she's dirty. And I was like, I am. Thank you very much.
My boyfriend says he feels like he has to tread very carefully because he was like, I know that everything has the potential to become material.
I can now give to people and they definitely in that moment are having a good time.
So if you want to know more about what comedy means to the people at its heart, then hear it straight from the horse's mouth. Comedy in a Nutshell, wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Fringe, baby!
So by the start of July, they're now going across to Tasmania.
Yep, Tas.
Or Van Diemen's Land, as it was at the time.
Yeah.
And then mid-August, they made it to Tasmania, and they anchored there in Adventure Bay.
9 months later.
Yeah. And they're probably 3/4 of the way there, 2/3 of the way.
Yeah.
Great.
So they stopped there for a while, meeting the natives.
Yeah, sure.
Getting some food and water and stuff, fixing the boat again.
Of course.
It's a tough life, isn't it, really?
It is. Considering them,
I think if they turned back then, that's an 18-month trip.
For nothing.
Yeah.
But by this time, they're now Bligh is starting to have a few clashes with members of the crew. He lent Fletcher Christian some money, which apparently...
Why would he need money?
Yeah. What are you going to spend it?
In the gift shop.
Just going to the
Tassie,
I suppose like prison. You know, what are you going to spend money on in prison? But there are things that are great currency there.
Barter system.
You might get somebody's grog or
yes,
some more boiled lime.
But you don't need money.
No, but
have you got any money? Why? I've just taken up origami.
Yeah, but there were outposts. You know, you could buy stuff from other colonies.
Do you take pounds? What? No. Do you take pounds sterling?
What's the exchange rate?
What do they say?
Going to get something in the gift shop before we head out.
Duty free. Yeah. He had an argument with the ship's carpenter about the way he was doing his carpentry.
What? It's a bit wooden.
Can you do it a bit less chiselly?
I wonder why you'd have been arguing about that, but anyway.
I am good at dealing with people. Can't you understand it? What the hell is wrong with you people?
The carpenter, Purcell, was ordered to go back on the ship and he refused. So Bligh withheld his rations. I don't know to what extent, but he was, there was a punishment. He wasn't flogged for insolence.
Starved.
He was, I don't know how much or for how long, but that was the punishment. One of the seamen aboard was died from a blood infection after the surgeon tried to treat his asthma with a bloodletting.
Right.
What's that? What's a bloodletting?
Well, they cut you open and let the blood out.
Yeah.
All of it.
Well, not all of it.
As much as it takes for your asthma to stop.
To go away.
So therefore all of it. It stopped.
He's stopped. He's
no longer
got no asthma
heavily.
because he's not breathing. Yeah. He's not breathing at all.
Wow.
Yeah. Crumbs.
The surgeon then
resigned.
Got drunk, and Bligh confiscated all of his supply that he found of his hooch. So little set twos with crew.
These are quite little, but
comparatively,
are things amassing.
Yeah,
Can't really think what else they're going to... Because you're seemingly...
You withhold people's food and their booze on a ship.
Well, yeah, all right. Over not much. Mind you, a bloke did die, didn't he?
Yeah, over not much.
His death.
Then, you're gonna get people's backs up, aren't you?
Well, those two blokes' backs up, I suppose, but yeah.
So, 26th of October, 1788, the Bounty finally arrives in Tahiti.
26th
Nearly a year later.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
It's nearly a year since leaving England.
God.
They've now reached their initial destination.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
They've travelled 27,000 nautical miles.
Wow.
Fingers crossed, breadfruit's ready to pick.
Oh, breadfruit. Sorry. No.
No. We harvested that 3 months ago. You'll have to wait.
We do red fruits. Sorry.
Oh, we had a blight in the summer. It's all gone.
It's all gone, yeah.
There was a boat came 6 months ago.
Tahiti was 70 years later, maybe, was where Paul Gauguin moved to.
Yes, of course he did. Because that's what inspired his art.
Yeah, I mean, his art totally transformed when he got there. Everything suddenly went real wild
because
colours.
it's going to, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, basically, if you move there, anything you do, regardless of what you do, is going to totally transform.
Yeah,
but that's arguably...
You can't paint a desaturated painting in Tahiti.
No, but forget about art. Just literally anything you do will change.
Okay, so in Tahiti, the chief of the local tribe remembered Bligh from his last visit 15 years before.
Yeah, right. I mean, to be fair, they probably don't have that many.
We don't get a lot of visitors.
No.
We had one 15 years ago, and now you.
Hi, mate.
We know everybody on the island.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
They were in Tahiti for 5 months. You know, again, rest, recuperation, repairs to the ship, digging up the plants, loading the plants, etc.
Planting them on the boat.
Yeah.
And you know what a botanist is like once you get him off a ship on a new land?
Oh, look, a beetle.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
He's gone again.
Would have seen a load of...
Him and his notebooks.
Lions, tigers, bears. Oh, my.
Okay, so they got all that. So we're 18 months in, and they've just got the plants they want.
Yeah.
Fine.
Good news, lads. We're halfway there. We've only got to do that all again.
Yeah.
So, as I alluded to earlier, while they were there, they had pretty much light duty, apart from actually loading the plants.
Which
that doesn't take 5 months.
I think that's all right. Have a rest, lads.
Let me explain how light their duties were. Okay. Of the 45 men, 18 were treated for venereal infections.
Arrange food, drink, entertainment, and a sit-down orgy for 40.
That is classic. The disease of, I don't know, men stressfully cooped up.
Yeah. They were all tested on aboard and not found to have any venereal infections. They picked them up from the natives. They didn't transfer it.
Right, I was going to say, it begs the question, where did the diseases come from?
They were riddled.
You would have to assume that whatever infections that there were amongst the population, that those infections were comfortable within that population. Do you know what I mean? There are plenty of diseases that we're all carrying now, which are fine with us. They live with us.
What you carry? What diseases are you carrying?
If we end up with another population, those diseases could be fatal to them.
Yeah, like the War of the Worlds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Kill the red weed with a cough.
Cold. Yeah.
Some of the crew took wives.
Oh, yeah.
Marriage, that blessed arrangement, that dream within a dream.
Christian himself formed a close partnership with a Polynesian named Mauatua, but he called her Isabella.
Yeah, of course.
Which is the name of
It's easier.
It's also the name of a previous girlfriend he had. He's named this girlfriend after an old girlfriend.
Oh, my God.
Oh, dear.
So this is man's future. To bask in the sunlight, bathe in the clear streams, and eat the fruits of the earth with all knowledge of work and hardship forgotten.
Bligh remarked again in his records, his ship's log, although he was very
relaxed,
forgiving,
relaxed and forgiving. He was a bit annoyed about the discipline that his lower officers were
partaking in.
He said he called them neglectful and worthless petty officers because they weren't holding the men to account for.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So in reference to this neglectful and worthless petty officers opinion that Bligh had, Bligh would humiliate Christian because of the way he and the other officers weren't.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's life, isn't it? That's how they commander and second in command. Oh, yeah, I know he wasn't technically second in command, but that's just how. Yeah. You're in charge of those people. You're in charge of those people. I'm in charge of everyone, and everyone does their bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, perhaps Mr. Christian took it personally.
The sooner we are seamen again, the better. Don't you agree, gentlemen?
It's over a year, and then they're spending these 5 months. There's been no floggings at all. Now, because everyone is being lax, there's loads of floggings now.
Oh, okay. Right.
Because
everyone's just relaxed into. Let's face it, they're in Tahiti having a whale of a time.
Well, exactly.
Instead of on a stupid rocky ship.
Yeah, but the thing is, their equipment's being lost or stolen by the natives.
Right,
and people who are supposed to be looking after it, they're getting beatings for neglect and what have you. And
so they had a really rough journey, then a few months of absolute paradise, and now they're starting to get castigated again. So it must be quite a dramatic change.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's the combination, isn't it? Because they've had this arduous trip, but then now that they're
the glory sandwich,
but they've now been now that they've been allowed to sit around and be promiscuous and what have you, the whole thing is falling apart.
Could you have?
So now it's having the opposite effect.
Could you have gone? It's fine. I'm just going to stay here.
Well, no, that's desertion.
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
Well,
go on then, sail off.
Well, I'm guessing you'd be shot.
Oh, would you?
Well,
for desertion, would you?
Well, you'd be hanged.
Would you?
By who?
Navy, yeah. Well, on the ship. Or
so
arrested
Bligh
and
would have
taken
to hang
back.
them.
Probably would be taken back to England.
Right, but
in fact, they might have been transported to Australia.
So then you're going to have to be forcibly got back onto the boat. It's going, oh no, run away.
Yeah, well, it would be interesting.
Run away and hide.
I said, what would be ironic is that they would probably be taken all the way back to England and then found guilty of desertion, probably then transported to Australia.
Right. Just along the road.
Which is, we're here, just chuck them out.
Because I bet the ongoing where the crew are being lax and, just, this is rubbish, I'd rather stay.
Yeah.
I'd rather stay here with the exotic women and bloody breadfruit.
Yeah, but anyone could say that about anywhere, really.
I wouldn't even care about the salary.
We don't all just stay there.
I know, but what's the choice there? The year journey back to stupid old slums in London or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's the job, isn't it? Mind you, on the 5th of January 1789, 3 men decided to do what you suggested.
Right.
They desert.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that.
So they took a boat, a small boat,
I know,
with some guns, good, including one of whom had already been flogged for losing equipment.
Sure.
And 2 of his friends.
Go away! I'm trying to get to shore.
So after 3 weeks, the 3 men were
Where did they
found.
go? Oh, they were.
They didn't get very far.
Okay. I suppose you wouldn't really, would you?
They're on a little island.
Yeah, thousands of miles from
anywhere.
Mainland.
Okay, so after 3 weeks, they found these 3 men. They brought them back, and they were all flogged. And one of them for the second time.
If you hadn't have run away, this wouldn't have happened.
Then into February, they now started filling the ship. They've increased the workload.
Keep them busy.
Keep them busy. You're getting more and more breadfruit. Initially, there were going to be 600 breadfruit plants. Now they've gone over 1,000.
Yep.
So they're loading the boat with all of this stuff. And overhauling and doing, they basically increased the amount of labour just compared to the previous months.
But they can't behave themselves, better give them something useful to do.
Yeah.
Carry those plants.
Yeah.
A lot.
Put them over there. No, I don't like it there. Move them over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put the big ones to the left.
So on the 1st of April, away they go. They finally leave Tahiti.
The 1st of April, right. So, so that's nearly the 18 months bit.
Yeah. Obviously, they didn't want to leave the April
Exactly.
Did not want to leave Tahiti.
April Fool.
On the 27th of April, Bligh accused Christian of stealing some of his private supply of coconuts.
My personal store of coconuts was well up to the top of the netting.
Right. That's terrible. How many did he have?
All of them.
But he had a lovely bunch.
Yeah.
Hey.
Would he have got those from Tahiti?
He
must
probably.
have done.
I assume so.
I've been conceiving these for 18 months.
Yeah, he brought them with him.
You can pick them out of the sea.
Yeah,
they just float about on the sea, don't they?
around Tahiti.
Yeah, around Tahiti.
In Portsmouth.
I would assume that they were lying around on the ground and they were easier to pick up than the ones in the sea.
There's one in the sea.
Bounty was a small ship. It wasn't so small you could just lean over the side and pick a coconut out of the water.
They're just washing over the side.
So he accused him
of stealing his lovely coconuts.
Yeah. I mean, things are going pretty south if...
Yeah. Well, he decided to punish the entire crew for the theft. Alleged theft.
It's all fallen into place as to why there was a mutiny.
Yeah.
I never touched no coconut.
Not neither.
Captain.
He
said...
It sounds like one of those times when he said, right, stand up, who stole my nuts? It's like, right, then you're all going to go into detention. It's your own time you're wasting.
So how does one man punish however many 40?
Their food ration was reduced by half and rum ration was stopped completely.
But why is the rum gone?
I looked at annual deaths by coconut injury.
Of course you did.
Because, I thought, like, coconut landing on your head is fatal. I know that.
Sure, yeah. Hang on, don't tell us.
But
we have to guess.
How many deaths by coconut are there
per what?
A lot. It's like 150 or something.
I'm going to say more. I'm going to say 350.
A half.
There's
half a death per year.
Half a death?
That's what I thought, but when I looked at it, there's one every 2 years.
What do you mean half a death?
Half a death?
Oh, one every 2 years.
One every 2 years.
Half a death.
It's because,
he just broke his legs amputated.
Because coconuts are only in certain particular parts of the world.
Sure, yeah.
And where they are, usually people know how to hang around coconuts, and no one sticks a tent underneath it. And
right.
If you're a harvester of coconuts, you know how to do it.
Why would you say half a day? You say one every 2 years.
Annually, half. So the next day, the 28th of April, about 30 nautical miles south of Tafua, which is...
Where's that?
In Tonga.
Oh, so they're going back the way they came?
They're going back the way they came.
Oh, God.
I didn't want to spend another 2 weeks at the Cape.
No. Right, okay. So they're over there.
Instead of 2 weeks at the Cape, they spend 9 months going across the sea.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Right, okay. Yeah, fine.
So Christian decides they're going to mutiny.
Christian decides?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, to be fair, the notion of immunity... Mutiny. I said immunity. Mutiny. It'd be quite easy because it's literally the captain and nobody else because his closest confidant is obviously leading it.
Something troubling you, Mr. Christian?
You're going to need...
I'm talking about manpower.
Well, you're going to need like nearly half the crew, aren't you?
Absolutely,
really,
yeah. Otherwise, it's just not... Yeah. That's why I was...
You can't just stand up and go, I'm taking over.
No, I know.
Or 44 other people turn up at you.
That's why I was questioning so how did he punish the whole crew? Because all of them could have gone... No, it's fine. We're just going to exactly. Yeah, we're just going to. I'm having my rum rations. No, I'm taking it away. Are you? I mean, it'd just be easy to not.
Well, this is another thing about his rank because he was a lieutenant. It was just him and like warrant officers. If he'd been a captain or a master commander, he would have had not only more officers in support, but he would have had a contingent of Marines. Whose sole purpose would have been to protect the captain.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Other than a lot of shouting and threatening, there wasn't really much of a fight.
You have witnessed Mr. Christian's act of violence toward a superior officer.
Right.
It was broadly half and half. 22 men joined the mutiny with Christian, so 23 out of...
Oh, so not everyone did it, right?
23 out of 44, so about half mutinied.
You've given your last command, Bligh.
18 were loyal to Bligh, and then there was a couple who's... whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's winning?
They had no affinity.
I don't even like breadfruit. So they've got that, and they're in the middle of nowhere, are they? They're not like on a sun-drenched Polynesian island at this point.
What they did was they put Bligh into a boat.
Into the boat!
Into a boat. To be fair, he was in a boat.
He was in a bigger boat. They put him in a little boat.
Let's get lads. Let's put him in another boat.
This isn't a big boat, but it still has tenders.
It still has the tenders, yeah. Well, it's still got an anchor.
Is it the ones that hang off the side like on ferries? what are they called?
Lifeboats.
Yeah. Lifeboats, yeah. Like,
well, no, I mean, no. They would have carried
a boat
on the deck. Sort of.
Would they?
Yeah.
Oh, the rowing kind of.
The rowing kind.
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
right.
It's a little rowing boat.
Yeah, fine. So I was right.
Right. Now, picture the scene. They put 16 men in this boat.
God.
Including Bligh. They give them 4 cutlasses.
Yes.
And like a sextant. No maps.
Right.
And some food and water. And they put them in the boat.
Some oars.
Away you go.
Oh my God.
Bye.
In the sea.
In the sea.
Oh, that's terrible, isn't it?
You've got a feel for Bligh at this point, haven't you?
Yeah. 4 men who stayed behind
Captain
who weren't mutineers. So a couple of loyalists and a couple of indifferents.
A couple of undecided.
I mean, being on the boat or being on the ship is fairly binary.
Yeah, but if you can't get on the boat,
you have to stand one side of that line, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if you get on the boat, that's more people to share the rations with, and more overloading of the boat.
Yeah.
So 4 people stay behind, and
no, I would come with you, but I don't want to eat all your rations up, so I'll stay on the ship.
Yeah, I'm a bit agnostic. Right, okay. So weirdly, I suppose they're technically not against him. So all right, fine.
Well, as the boat was pushed away, you know, Bligh's small vessel.
Yeah.
The 4 who remained behind shouted to Bligh to beg not to be considered mutineers.
I couldn't help it. I was a victim of circumstance.
Obviously, assuming that he would somehow make his way back to England.
Just make sure you're at the back of that queue and go, oh no, there's no room for me.
They put as many people as they could. I mean, I'm sure the people who didn't mutiny wouldn't have been held in high esteem by the people who did. No. You're not in a great position staying on the Bounty with mutineers.
You're on a bigger boat.
When you've clearly stated that I'm not one of you. Mm-hmm. So Bligh shouted back, "Never fear, lads, I'll do you justice if ever I reach England." What's interesting about that is, of course, that he did reach England. Now, this is testament to how brilliant a sailor he was. He managed to navigate 3,500 nautical miles westward.
God, imagine the food you'd need.
Until they finally reached Timor.
Yeah. Which is Indonesia.
Yeah, which is Dutch at the time.
Oh, was it? Okay.
There are only 2 things I can't stand in this world. People who are intolerant of other people's cultures and the Dutch.
And then from thence back to England.
On a bigger boat.
On a bigger boat. By virtue of the Dutch, I suppose.
Wow.
Who we weirdly weren't at war with at that time.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was a bit of luck, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Bligh was particularly tight with the water, as you'd expect on that.
Arguably you would need to be, wouldn't you?
His precious coconuts were apparently brought into use, because he would give people 1 cup. He used to measure it out with a half a coconut.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
But I did a few calculations on this. So there's 15 people on board, and if they only had the equivalent of 2 cups of water a day, because I know the ration was really low, and it was like depending on the size of your coconut, I suppose, really. But if you assume a 2-cup portion of water each day, you need 12 to exist. So they're going to be dehydrated pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
And they would have needed about 350 litres of water to travel that kind of distance.
Yeah. So where on earth did that?
Yeah, I mean, 350, it's not, I mean, it's, you're getting on for a third of a tonne of water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they needed twice that, really, just to be alive.
Absolutely. But were there fatalities?
The one time that they landed on an island, there was a fight with the natives and one of them was killed. But that's the only fatality. Someone actually killed the one time they went on shore.
They're safer on the boat.
Safer on and dehydrated and stuff. Yeah. Wow. When they got to Timor, one of the crew was very ill, had been very ill, and they died. And a few people more died on the way back to England. But
on a big boat.
On a bigger boat. But in terms of this small launch and under Bligh, it was astonishingly successful as a feat of navigation and survival. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Success! We've done it!
What of the Bounty then?
Yeah.
One of the first things that happened was that Christian confiscated all the personal effects of the people who'd left on the launch and divided it among the crew.
Well, that's
So he stole all their personal possessions and bribed his crew, his mutineers, with it. And then they threw all the breadfruit into the sea.
Sure, yeah. So they never delivered. So there's a load of people in the Caribbean going, When are they coming? Still to this day.
One would guess that the breadfruit would be property of the king at that point.
Definitely.
So that's not a good thing.
No.
I knew it'd be a waste of time. Stupid breadfruit.
Stupid breadfruit.
That's the base of the issue, I say.
It's all the fault
if they hadn't gone for breadfruit, if they'd gone for Bounty, they would have been all right.
Yeah, or
Maltesers,
gold,
cocoa leaves,
gold and
tobacco,
or sugar or whatever. Not stupid breadfruit. Whatever happened to breadfruit? I say, don't know.
I don't know if I've ever even seen a breadfruit.
That's what I'm saying. So they were technically in the middle of nowhere when they pushed away the little boat containing Bligh.
Yeah.
Then they nicked all the remaining whatever possessions.
Yeah.
And then technically they had been reported by then. They didn't know it, but
but they knew.
So then, what did they do?
Well, they knew that it's possible that they might survive in the launch.
Yeah, I mean,
they had to assume that somewhere along the line it would be reported. One of them would survive to report.
If I'd been Christian pushing the boat off, I would have thought, I guaranteed it, I would have been very confident saying, "When that'll be the end of them."
Yeah.
But anyway,
but they had to assume that at least one of them might make it.
Sure.
Even if they killed all the others, that someone was going to be able to get back and the story of the mutiny would get out.
Yeah.
So they knew that the first place that anyone, albeit months later, would come looking would be Tahiti. So they didn't go back to Tahiti.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So instead, they went to Tupai, which is south of Tahiti, about 500 miles.
They're also frightened of going back to Tahiti because they'll have a load of angry wives there.
Where have you been?
Go back to the wife.
Yeah. I've had the dinner on for 7 months.
We're having boiled breadfruit again.
Hey, breadfruit. So when the Bounty arrived at the end of May in Tupai, they didn't get the reception that they anticipated because the native population attacked them.
Okay. They didn't know it was a mutinous thing. They just attacked.
No, they just attacked a perceived threat from the sea.
Fine, yeah.
And Christian used his 4-pounder guns that they had aboard to fight off the attack.
Okay.
Wow.
Then they decided to take some armaments and go ashore.
Yep.
Effectively to colonise the island.
Sure, yeah.
In lieu of the natives that they'd repelled. But they needed, if they're going to form a settlement, they needed some workers and some women.
Yep.
Basically, they wanted to get some slave labour. And some wives.
Breadfruit?
So they thought, some breadfruit. So they thought, well, where can we get that? I know. Tahiti.
Right, yes. I've got a wife there. Yeah, right, okay.
So they went
I'm starting to think that Bligh was a decent guy.
Well, there you go. Although Bligh was pro-slavery, so they're both
scratched.
Again, it's all part and parcel of the times.
Yeah,
it's a different time.
Yeah.
Everyone had slaves. Although, on the subject of slavery, did you know that slavery has been outlawed in England since
1973?
1066?
Oh, right.
1069. William the Conqueror outlawed slavery in England.
Oh, right.
It's been illegal to have slaves in England for 1,000 years.
In England?
In England.
Yeah.
But you could have slaves in other countries.
Right.
Okay.
But then they decided the interpretation of the law. I'll tell you, this is a very quick aside, but because of American slave owners who would come to England to trade and whatever, and they'd bring their slaves, and one of them ran away and was recaptured and sent back, and lawyers acting in England on this, they basically went to court about him being recaptured and sent back, and the law in England said, well, because of William the Conqueror, you're not allowed to have slaves, so technically the minute they set foot in England, they're free.
So you couldn't have a slave in the UK, but you could be a slaver.
You could be a slaver. You could trade in slaves until Britain outlawed slavery.
Yeah,
by hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, but then Britain outlawed slavery and spent billions of pounds and vessels and that patrolling the seas, stopping everybody else from having slaves, which is fascinating. The amount of time and effort they put into saying, well, we've decided we can't have slaves. We've banned ours, and now we're banning all of yours, even though we've got no legal right to do so. We're just going to tell you that you can't have slaves and just stop it.
Sounds like one good thing that came out of colonies.
Oh, yeah. It has to be one thing. So, Bounty goes back to Tahiti. They take 30 people, mixed men and women, and they say to the chiefs, me and Bligh and all our crew, we're founding a new colony.
Yes.
A British colony. So they got these volunteers to come with them. And of course, basically they've now got some slaves and some wives.
Yep.
And they spent a couple of months trying to establish this so-called colony.
A couple of months isn't long, is it, to give it?
Not really.
We're going to start a colony. It's been 2 months now. It's not happened.
Yeah.
But the trouble is now Christian was the one losing the reins of authority over the mutineers.
Okay.
8 people decided they'd stick with Christian, and the other 16 odd decided they wanted to go back to Tahiti. And take their chances.
Yeah.
So there's factions within factions.
Factions within factions. As is always the case.
Yeah.
They always turn on each other.
Yeah.
Well, you act like a jerk sometimes, you know that?
So by then you get to September, they go back to Tahiti again to drop off these people who want to go back to Tahiti.
Yeah.
By then the Tahitians have learned from another British ship of the story.
The news has travelled.
The news has travelled.
Of the initial mutiny, but now we're the mutiny on the Bounty, aren't we?
Yeah, the mutiny of the mutiny.
Yeah.
So again, you got a less than favourable reception.
If you mutiny from the mutiny, is it no longer a mutiny? Is it like a double negative? Are you then...
I don't think so.
It's unmutinied.
Is mutiny immutable? Just remain mute.
Yeah.
So Christian dropped off the 16 men in Tahiti, but because they were no longer as welcome...
Hang on, he said, it's fine, I'll drop you off.
He dropped them off. They sailed. Basically, yeah. I mean, well, they outnumbered him, so...
All right.
So but it was 2-1.
Oh, so they made him drop
They said,
them off.
we're going back to ski. All right. So they took him.
I'll drop you off.
So the Bounty went back to Tahiti again. Dropped off the 15 of them.
Yep.
He kept one, the armourer, and effectively kidnapped him back because he needed an armourer. And they managed to persuade a whole bunch more of Tahitians to go back with them to prop up their colony, having lost 2/3 of his group.
Yep.
20 more Polynesians, 14 women, 6 men.
But when they got back to Tahiti, the news had arrived. What did the chieftain say?
They weren't hostile, but they didn't support them anymore because they knew there was no colony; it was a fabrication. So they and then they weigh anchor and away they go.
Go on.
Hey, your sail is limp, like your dick.
Bligh finally makes it back to England March 1790. So almost another year since the mutiny itself has taken place.
So 2.5 years
since its mission launch. Yeah, he makes it back to England.
Well done.
However, news of the mutiny has already preceded him. It's got there before him.
Okay, yeah.
And he's welcomed home as a hero.
Okay. Even though he failed in every single aspect of the trip.
He survived a criminal uprising and navigated across thousands of nautical miles of ocean.
I was thinking of the breadfruit.
It's all about the breadfruit.
Lost 1,000 trees.
Lost 1,000 breadfruit.
Or little pot plants.
He did face a court-martial because he did lose a ship.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit harsh, I suppose, but
he was acquitted and promoted to captain.
Mm-hmm.
So not so much lost as had it stolen from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he didn't lose it, did he? Anyway, it's in Tahiti.
Well, yes, we know where he is. So, in November of that year, another 6 months later, the Admiralty decides that obviously this will not stand, so they send another ship, the HMS Pandora, a Navy ship of the line, to capture the mutineers and bring them back for trial.
Okay, so this time an actual military ship.
An actual military ship.
That's big.
A big ship.
Key point there. It's big.
The mutineers who had stayed in Tahiti, or returned to Tahiti, were all arrested.
Yeah. But hang on, 4 of them would have said, "Yeah, but
wait a minute."
I distinctly remember
the quiet ones at the back. Yeah.
Captain Bligh said to me from 100 metres away, "I will remember you."
When was this? 2 years ago?
Yeah, exactly.
Possibly. Was this when you were pushing him away off the Bounty? Yes.
The Pandora was in Tahiti for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So obviously, again, repairs and food and water and everything, but also trying to find out where the Bounty's gone. Mm-hmm. They build a prison on the deck of the Pandora, aptly named Pandora's Box.
Oh, was it? I'm in a box! Oh, no, not the box.
So they're going to be caged on deck for the trip back to England.
do you mean they couldn't find the bounty?
Well, it wasn't in Tahiti. They dropped the people off and they went off to
whatever.
Because you'd think a big ship, well, I mean, it's not a big ship, but you'd think a ship would be relatively easy to find.
Well, yeah, definitely, yeah.
But then when you think that the horizon is only 9 miles away, it's actually quite easy to hide a ship if it's any more than 10 miles away.
More than 9.5 miles.
Yeah.
So on the 8th of May, the Pandora leaves Tahiti, going off to search for the bounty among the thousands of Pacific islands.
With the prisoners in the box on
With the
deck.
prisoners in the box.
Yep. Well, I thought it was in Tapau.
Yeah, but they don't know that.
Right.
Well, I was thinking if they've spent, 5 weeks chatting to the locals,
trying to find out where...
On the basis that
they knew where they came from, because they came there and back a few times.
Fletcher thing.
Yeah.
He's dropped them off, and they would have... Anyway.
Yeah.
They didn't know. Yeah, fine.
Well, as it was, that they weren't there anyway.
Oh, okay.
Because as we know, they famously were on Pitcairn Island.
Famously.
So, after a few months of searching, end of August, the Pandora ran aground on the Great Barrier Reef.
Oh, wow.
And in their attempts to abandon ship, they basically ignored the prisoners on the deck. The armourer of the Pandora tried to break the men's the shackles, because obviously they're manacled as well.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But the ship sank before he finished. So 4 drowned, along with 31 crew of the Pandora.
Wow.
And then the remaining survivors basically did what Bligh did. They all got in a launch and tried to sail back. They reached Kupang in September. The prisoners were kept bound the whole time in this little launch.
Which is where?
Part of the Dutch East Indies.
Right, fine, yep.
They were transported, the prisoners that survived, they were kept in prison for weeks until they were finally transported to Cape Town, British colony, South Africa. Then they were put on a warship to Portsmouth in England, there to await trial.
So that's are we nearly 5 years later since when those now prisoners...
It's about 3.5 years, yeah. Since setting sail initially,
yes,
about 3.5 years now have gone by.
And Captain Bligh's been home for 1.5 years and is with his feet up and whatever.
Yeah,
so the last nearly 5 years, is it not a totally outlandish statement to say has been a total waste of everyone's time?
Kind of has.
In terms of the status of the mission, yes.
Yeah.
It was a waste of time.
What happened? What has happened? Captain Bligh got a promotion.
Yeah.
Loads of people lost their lives.
Yeah.
And some breadfruit is now floating.
Lots of breadfruit was drowned.
In the sea. and that's it.
Well, and dozens of native people from
haven't got their husbands.
Have been enslaved and killed.
Oh yeah. So hang on, where have we got
displaced?
So all the Fletcher, Christian, and they were all on board that.
Yeah,
the Admiralty fleet.
No, Fletcher, Christian, and about 8 other people have gone away to they know not where.
Oh, in that boat. Yeah.
So the people who stayed in Tahiti, they were arrested. Some drowned. The rest have been brought back to face trial for mutiny. So September 1792, so more months of nearly a year have passed. They're on the deck of the HMS Duke in Portsmouth Harbour to face court-martial. Some were acquitted. 6 were found guilty of the mutiny and sentenced to death by hanging.
And this will include the quiet ones who stood at the back.
Basically,
they were given pardons on the basis of Bligh's testimony.
Oh, so it did work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God for that.
Bligh did manage to successfully get breadfruit to the West Indies on another ship, but by the time he got back from that, public opinion was against him.
Told you. Bloody breadfruit.
That kind of reminds me of in the first series of Blackadder, when Sir Walter Raleigh goes away and comes back, and then goes away and comes back, and everyone's bored with it by the time he comes back again.
Very much so.
Sir Walter, really?
Classic. He was at the Battle of Copenhagen under Admiral Nelson. He was appointed Governor of New South Wales in 1806.
Right.
And later arrested and deposed in the Rum Rebellion.
Well, I suspect he caused that. He was probably withholding it from them.
He made admiral in 1811 and vice admiral in 1814 and died in 1817, aged 63. Meanwhile, Christian, having left Tahiti and the other mutineers...
And went somewhere.
They settled on Pitcairn Island. But he rediscovered the island because the exact location of that island wasn't really known, which was to their advantage because nautical charts had it like 180 miles east of where it actually was.
Okay. Yeah.
So they thought, well, this is pretty cool because if the Navy comes looking for this island, it ain't where they think it is.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So they stripped the boat to use all the lumber and everything.
Of course, yeah.
And then set fire to it.
So it didn't exist. Yeah.
Now, of course, things being as they were, they all started infighting with one another, the remainder of people.
Goodness.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Mutiny of the mutiny 3 times.
Yeah. There was a lot of violence, a lot of murders between mutineers and the Tahitians.
There can't be a lot of murders. There's only about half a dozen of them.
Well, there was about,
and then
I think,
stopped.
In total there would have been about 50 Tahitians. Plus the 8 mutineers.
So you're right.
There was a massacre of Tahitians.
God.
And some of the Tahitians murdered the mutineers, and the mutineers turned on each other. According to one of the Tahitian women, Christian was shot in the back and killed. So by the time the island was rediscovered in 1814, there was only one mutineer left alive.
Oh, wow.
Gosh.
Name of Adams. One of the people who greeted the British warships who arrived was a young man named Thursday October Christian.
Fantastic. I have 3 questions. What day was he born on?
And
when was he born? And what did he believe in?
And who was his dad? Yeah.
And say, are there descendants now of that?
There are descendants now. That's the interesting thing. The Pitcairn Island was unusual in the fact that, you had blonde, fair-skinned natives, if you like, because they were basically from 8 mutineers. There are bits of the Bounty in Bounty Bay, very tiny little bits remaining under the sea where it was burned and scuttled. Other bits were taken ashore to be used.
As in all of these cases, there are more bits of wood on eBay described as part of the Bounty than it would take to make a ship.
Yeah, exactly. There's a museum on Fiji that's got like the rudder and bits from the boat. Popular culture then. So you mentioned right at the beginning one Anthony Hopkins. So Anthony Hopkins in 1984 played Bligh in a movie called The Bounty. Do you remember who played Fletcher Christian?
Do I know who played?
1984. Do I know? Do you know?
No, I'm asking you. Do I know? I know you know.
Well, if you know, okay.
Do I know it?
In 1984, the film The Bounty, Anthony Hopkins played Bligh Christian.
Yeah.
And who played Fletcher Christian?
Is he of the 80s?
Yes. A leading man, famous for not being able to portray the nationality of the person that he's portraying.
Right.
Oh, right, yeah.
Meaning he's American.
He's not Scottish.
Australian.
He's Australian, yes.
Oh, it's Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson.
Yeah, sorry.
Of course it is.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Brando is 1962.
Yes,
Brando played Christian in 1962 version.
Played Christian?
I've seen that
Christian against Trevor Howard. Was Bligh.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I remember that one. That was brilliant.
Yeah, that was good fun.
Trevor Howard plays a proper sort of Victorian overlord kind of,
And Brando's really interesting. He plays him as a kind of spoiled toff who really thinks he is something special,
Which would make sense because he wasn't like a gutter snipe Christian.
No,
he was
pretty privileged.
Yeah, it was one.
And he went to King's College, Cambridge.
Yeah. He was a spoiled brat, basically.
And he was just a mate, basically, wasn't he?
Yeah. He had a spoiled upbringing. He was given preferential treatment. And then he was lounging around. And then he went...
So his master and commander just another story?
It's a story about basically being at sea on this vessel. Okay, but it's very good at relating the situation as it would have been.
Right.
In terms of the naturalists, in terms of the medicals, in terms of the
people
officer ranks. Yeah. So it's very good portrayal. The first movie that came out was in 1916, which was an Australian film, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. In 1933, there was a movie called In the Wake of the Bounty, and it had Errol Flynn as Fletcher Christian.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
There's a 35 one as well.
But 35 is possibly the best one. 1935, Charles Lawton.
Oh, I was about to say, Charles. I think Charles Lawton should have played.
And Clark Gable.
And Clark Gable.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Charles Lawton's just Bligh personified, really, isn't he?
Bligh doing an impression of Charles Lawton.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, these are all quite, in each of their respective times, these are quite
I don't think I've seen any of them.
Really?
No,
I've seen all of them. Well, I haven't seen the 1916 silent one.
I haven't seen the main Hopkins one, but perhaps I will.
1989, Mutant on the Bounty. Science fiction movie. Don't watch it.
Thank you. There was a musical.
Oh, yeah.
Was it called Bounty! Exclamation mark.
No.
Or Mutiny.
It was called Mutiny! Exclamation mark.
Nearly.
It's one or t'other.
Co-written and starring David Essex.
Wow.
As Fletcher Christian.
Hold me close.
Don't let me go.
Oh.
There was... there's
got a silver line.
I'm going to end with this. And this will mean more to an English audience than an American audience, but the beloved comedy duo Morecambe and Wise did a spoof version called Monty on the Bounty.
Why?
Starring in the role of Captain Bligh, Arthur Lowe.
Really?
Of Dad's Army fame.
Yeah,
wow.
Sure. That sounds good.
It'd be a young Arthur Lowe.
Young Arthur Lowe. A play what Ernie wrote. Ernie the heroic Fletcher Christian. Ernie Wise.
Good grief.
Bounty.
That's all for this time. If you want to know more about what we've talked about on this episode, then just Google it or something. You can listen to all of our previous episodes on our website. That's www.truecrimediary.co.uk. Please remember to leave a review on your podcast provider if you can, or you can email us. That's stuff@truecrimediary.co.uk. My thanks to Jed and Rue and to all of you for listening, and we'll see you again on next date in our True Crime Diary.